Building Stronger Families in Challenging Times. Naples Alliance for Children presents Safety in an Electronic World. This program is sponsored by the Naples Alliance for Children in cooperation with the Collier County Sheriff's Office and the Collier County Public Schools. Today I have with me Sergeant Ron Byington, who is the street gang unit of the Sheriff's Department, or the Sheriff's Office. I have to be very correct with what I call you. And we're going to talk about how kids communicate these days, what's out there for them that parents know, and maybe a few things they don't know. And then go into the second half of the show. We'll talk specifically about gangs in Collier County. And I'd like to welcome you, Sergeant Ron Byington. And could you just tell us in the audience just a little about what your job is with the Sheriff's Office?
Absolutely. I'm coordinator for the street gang unit. I have 6 investigators and an analyst in the unit. And basically we look at it from a 4-pronged approach, if you will. We look at suppressing gang activity and identifying gang activity, and we do that through our patrol, or actually all our resources in the Sheriff's Office. We just basically are the central or coordinating unit when it comes to the gang database and the gang information out there. And but we do the enforcement, we do the intervention and prevention element of it, we do the education element of it, and we basically use all those components to help control the gang activity within Collier County.
Big job.
Never ending.
Do the deputies in the schools, do they work with you also? Very
closely. We do, in fact, 3 of the investigators that are assigned to the street gang unit do work in the schools along with the youth relations deputies, and there's constant training on what to look for and how to deal with those situations inside the schools.
So take a specific school, how many deputies are there in a school?
Generally there's each high school has 2 deputies assigned to the school, and then the middle schools have 1 and elementaries have 1.
And what do they just, I've seen them in there, and they mingle with the kids, they talk to them, they see what's going on.
Right. They have a large job to do within the schools. Obviously safety is a major component of their presence in the schools for the staff and for the students, a resource or liaison for the staff and the students, and just basically in information gathering. There's a lot of activity that goes on in the streets, in the community, that end up on our school campuses.
And this, I think, is one thing. The schools don't sit all by themselves, isolated from what happens in the streets or in the homes.
Correct.
And that, I think, is one of the things that Naples Alliance for Children has this year. When we talk about safe communities, we're talking about safe communities, including the schools and homes and playgrounds and all
everywhere.
over. Let's just talk about how these kids, it impacts everything in the schools and at home, but we're living in an electronic age, and there's a lot out there that wasn't out there before. Kids are communicating in many different ways.
Right.
We talked a few years back, it was big thing with the internet. What's out there now that kids are using? What do you think are the major places where kids communicate?
Right. Technology has just taken us to places, and every week there's just such advancements in technology, and the kids are very much in tune with that, and they know how to operate these items better than most adults. The cell phones, for instance, are just basically it's a tool that they carry, and most can't survive a day without them.
Or an hour without them, or a minute.
If you try to take a cell phone away from a kid these days, they want to battle you for it.
Now, cell phones have their place. Parents like their children to have cell phones because they communicate with them. They can let them know whether they're going to be late coming home from something, whether they're at a place. Lots of good things with the cell phones. But what are the negatives with a kid? What do parents need to look for as far as a cell phone? You give your child a cell phone. What is he or she doing with the cell phone, or can they be doing with it?
Right, and just it depends on the makeup of the kid and what they're into, and if it's it's a double-edged sword really with as the internet is. The internet is capable of great things. You can get a lot done, but it can also do a lot of harm. The same thing with the cell phone. The way technology is, these cell phones are set up to where they can videotape, photograph, take pictures, text messaging. There's just so many things that you can do now with the cell phones, and we've experienced where if they want to use them in a negative manner, it's very easy to do.
What negative things are they doing with the cell phones?
Well, I used to serve as a youth deputy in one of the local high schools, and we would deal with kids, you could actually sit in one classroom and text message answers to the exams to another student across campus, taking the exam. They can they can basically harass. I mean, we deal with harassment and bullying over the telephone, the text messaging. So there's a lot of things. They can jump on the internet from the telephone and do things on the internet.
Now, this all costs money. Could you just explain, because I think a lot of people know the internet. They know instant messaging where the kids can get on and talk to each other. They know the chat rooms, and kids shouldn't be in chat rooms, and we keep hearing certain things over and over again. Mm-hmm. But text messaging is new, I think, at least from my knowledge. What is text messaging? How is that different than talking on the internet?
Well, it's not really a whole lot different than talking on the internet. It's basically the same concept, and these kids develop as they have with the internet, their own language, if you will, their own verbiage, and their shortcuts for words coding when they speak with each other. But so they just. You can text message anything, it's like writing a letter.
Could we be sitting here? You and I are how far apart? We're close. Mm-hmm. Could I be sitting here, and under my shirt, you have your cell phone and I have my cell phone? Can we talk to each other without them knowing about it?
Absolutely. Sure can.
You just type it in. Mm-hmm. And they're typing without looking at the phone.
Right.
I've seen this happen. And some of the concerns may be that we can talk to each other face to face, but sometimes kids prefer to use the text messaging when they could just yell across the playground and say, hey there, what's going on?
Practicing their techniques.
And it's a little bit of multitasking, too.
Sure.
So do you think this happens in classrooms?
Without a doubt it happens in the classroom.
Even if the teacher says, no, put your cell phones turn them off?
Absolutely. My opinion is that the cell phones have become just a major distraction within our school systems.
And they're addictive.
They're absolutely. They can't. It's like the computer. They rush home to get on the computer. It's the same. They wake up in the morning and they have to start talking to people.
The thing is, it's not all bad.
Right.
Because a parent does want to communicate. Mm-hmm. Now let's take we're staying with the cell phones, I guess. Parents use the cell phones when the kids are coming home from school. They want to know when they get home from school. They're responsible parents. Is this always what they see or what they hear, or when the kid answers? Does it have to be that the kid is home when they're answering?
No, absolutely not. I mean, they can, with the call forwarding, there's so many features that you can set these phones up. Just because I'm talking to somebody on the other end of the phone and they tell me they're in one location, obviously doesn't mean that they're necessarily in that location. So I tell parents to catch your children not misbehaving. I don't want to feed it to them negatively and say, catch your kid messing up. Catch your kid not messing up. That's, I think, your role as a parent, is to make sure that you have that trust factor with your children. If your child tells you that they're going to be at such and such a location, every now and again, it's not a bad thing to go out and verify that is in fact what's going on, that there's nothing going on, that your child may be getting involved in some activities that they shouldn't be involved with. That's just the responsibility as a parent.
But you say to catch them in something that is good. They say they're going to the mall, they're going to a friend's house. Mm-hmm. Would you suggest that maybe they call direct to the friend's house, or maybe how would they do that?
Yes, parents need to know the parents. They need to know if exactly if a child says, I'm going to spend the night at such and such a location, then that parent should be comfortable with contacting the other child's parents and confirming that this is in fact what's going on. You get a lot of this. We get a lot of this play where, my son will tell me that he's going to spend the night over at Johnny's house. Well, Johnny tells his parents that he's coming over to spend the night at our house, and so that they can go out and really be unsupervised, and but we think that they're at each other's house. So, it's communications. It's about trust and communications.
And someone can do anything.
Sure.
It's an open world, and you certainly don't want to lock your kids in a spot. Right. I feel that, and I think you do too, that this electronic world, I don't know why I'm having problems with the word, I guess maybe it intimidates me, that it's a very good thing, but that parents and community must be aware of what can happen, the negative parts, and as you say, catch your kids doing things good, and every once in a while, and everyone does it, there will be some negatives, but just that trust in the parent.
Correct.
And we'll be back and talk about gangs in Collier County in the next segment.
Don't walk. Don't walk. Walk. Do not enter. Hot dogs. Definitely like hot dogs. Motorcycle club. Everything must go.
Ghostly ghouls.
Don't look at that, Teddy. Body piercing. Ouch.
Everyday moments can become teaching moments because learning starts long before school does. Give your child the start they need at bornlearning.org.
Hey there. Hi. I haven't seen you before.
Yeah, I just moved here. I'm new. Want to hang out or something? 'Cause I have a feeling we're gonna be best friends.
Things can get pretty ugly when you're bored. In an after-school program, you can find something way better to do.
Our story begins with a journey for knowledge. For research indicates that when a parent takes a more active role in their child's quest for education, that child will be bestowed with higher grades and higher sense of being. Just a wee bit of time out of your meeting schedule is all it takes to show your allegiance.
Hear what your kids are saying. Get more involved. Join your local PTA.
Welcome back to the Naples Alliance for Children, Safety in an Electronic World. And I want to welcome back our guest today, Sergeant Ron Byington with the Street Gang Unit of the Collier County Sheriff Office. We talked about general communications, particularly with cell phones, because that's the new communication with kids,
right,
in addition to the internet. But you deal with gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Are there gangs in Collier County?
Sure, there are gangs in Collier County.
How do we know there are gangs in Collier County?
You're going to have to trust me on this. We do have gang activity in Collier County.
Do the gangs, identifying the gangs, it used to be, and I'm going back a few years, do they still make put the signs up or the graffiti?
The graffiti? You know, it's interesting that you asked that, because with the advances in technology and the things that the kids are doing now, particularly with the internet, I think here in our community anyway, we have seen a reduction in our graffiti activity out in the communities, the spray painting the walls and signs and such, because I think a lot of the activity is now taking place on the internet and some of these websites and web pages that are available.
So their turf is through the internet rather than the street corner on...
You know, graffiti always served as a communications or a newspaper, if you will, between the gangs, where they were marking their territory, they were letting other groups know who was in the area. And now that's kind of taken a corner on us, and you know, with the technology as it is, and they're finding other means to do that.
So it isn't in your face in Collier County. It's behind the scenes, but it's still there.
Right.
How many? You probably have a list, not list, but an idea. How many gang members are there? Real gang members?
We currently are tracking now approximately 980 members and associates, and again, that's, you know, the state of Florida has established a statute that pertains to street gang activity. So there's a structure or a guideline that we follow, that we have to qualify a person. They have to meet those standards to be documented as a gang member. It's not us simply looking at a kid with baggy clothes and saying they're a gang member. So we have to have qualifiers to make that determination.
First, what's the difference between gang member and you said associate? What's an associate?
Basically is the information that we have on them. The state of Florida has established 8 pieces of criteria to document somebody as a gang member associate. If we establish 2 pieces of criteria on a person out of those 8 pieces, then we can document them as a member.
What are the pieces? What?
Things such as self-admittance to gang membership, or a parent guardian says my child's involved with gang activity. We have them with you know, wearing the colors, the tattooing, anything that indicates any kind of symbols.
So what's wrong with that? Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts,
right.
They wear hats, they wear this. What's wrong with a gang member?
Well, the one piece of criteria that we have to make sure we do our job on is the criminal activity.
Okay.
We have to make sure that we have to be able to document that they are, and it could be anything from theft to batteries. If they're going out and beating up other people, those are criminal acts that qualify them to be documented as a gang member or a street gang.
So it's not just a club.
Correct.
It's that it is a club that's doing illegal activities.
Criminal actions, right.
So that it's not necessarily just because they wear a certain hat, that doesn't necessarily set them up. It would set them up, but they have to be doing other things
right.
also.
We certainly are going to take a closer look at them based on their appearance.
And how can a parent, or just a community member, how do I know? I see a bunch of kids at the movie. I'm going to the movie. And I see a bunch of kids hanging around. They hang out at the movies. They hang out at the mall. That group of kids, what's the difference between them and gang member?
Well,
gang members.
Let me kind of throw this back at you. If you walk to the movie theater or you walk to the mall and you see that activity, would it be something that you walk by and don't give it much concern, or would you look at that group and say, it's a little intimidating to me?
Well, see, to me, I guess it wouldn't be that just seeing a bunch of kids together, unless they gave out different vibes. But if they're laughing and getting ready to the movie, I wouldn't. But I guess there would be some red flags.
Right, and that's what we have to establish. That's what we have to look at. Is this group, are they dressed the same? you know, we would have to delve into it a little bit more. We just, like I said, we just can't lump something together. There's certain indicators that we as trained professionals, if you will, would look at to determine whether there needs to be some follow-up. But if it's, and we tell our community, we tell our citizens, if you see a group hanging out and they're dressed similar, or there's some kind of activity that raises a flag, make the phone call to the sheriff's office and let us get out there and check them out rather, and make a determination on whether or not we have an issue with this particular group.
Now, what can parents do, or my kids are not here, my grandkids, what can parents do to see whether their kid maybe did slip into some gang activities?
Right. You know, one of the things that we tell parents to look for, you know, some of the basic things: change in friends, change in attitude. Are they becoming more rebellious? School activities or school grades, are they beginning to slip? A new group of friends that maybe they don't bring around the house anymore, that you don't know these kids that they're hanging out with. Clothing color, has the child all of a sudden start to begin to wear a certain color of clothing? Primarily, you walk in his closet and he's got all, primarily one color. Mm-hmm. Those are indicators that there might be something going on. Catching them lying, again, as a parent, you follow up to make, to catch your kid doing the right thing. If you're catching your kid doing the wrong thing, then there's some more red flags.
And at what point, and it's a loaded question, at what point does a parent call out for help from the sheriff's office or from one of the other agencies?
At the earliest point. The first indicators that they start to see that they, as a parent, see the change in their child. And it's not a change for the better, it's a change of concern. As soon as they start to detect that, they need to make a phone call. Whether they go down and meet with the school youth officer, whether they call myself or any of the investigators in the gang unit, we can give them, advice and some guidance.
Now, there's a real fine line. I mean, you hear and we hear that Collier County isn't friendly to kids. There's nothing to do, which sometimes I think is true. I shouldn't say that. But as far as kid things. Mm-hmm. But where does that line where the friendliness to kids and, hey, let them go, they're in the parks, they're doing things, how can you keep that balance between protecting them, sometimes from themselves, and stifling them and making things very difficult for them to even move and do things?
Are we speaking on a parent level?
Parent and community.
And community. Again, it's a trust issue. There's plenty of parks out there, and kids tell me about, well, there's nothing to do. And my response is, well, I grew up here. Try living here back in the 1970s if you think there's nothing to do now. But there's a lot of things that are available to the kids out there, and if they choose not to look for it, then that's a typical response. But again, it depends on the activity. If they're out in the community parks and they want to fight and they want to deface property, we're going to stifle that. We're going to let them know.
So it's when you come in, there is a reason to come in, not just that people are standing around talking, or unless it's standing around loitering somewhere where no one stands around. And
they're being productive citizens and they're doing the things that is expected of them. They won't have any of those issues.
Now, why do kids join gangs? Why don't they join the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts? Go down to, I mean, there are a lot of agencies in town. Why don't they? They'll say money for one thing sometimes. Mm-hmm. But so why do they go to the gangs rather than to the establishment?
We've learned that there are a lot of reasons why these kids join, and when we do our intervention with a lot of these kids, it could be anything from the kid is small in stature and gets bullied, so he looks for the protection. It could be for the excitement. Some kids feel it's exciting to go out and do some of the things that the street gang. Other street gang members tell them, it's a perception. And a lot of it is what they call respect. It's their way of being identified, being respected. So if it's a kid that maybe gets pushed around, he joins a street gang and starts to fall under that umbrella, then he feels like nobody's going to push him around. So there's just no family structure. There's just, looking for affection, somebody to care about them. There's just so many elements, and that's where it's very important for parents to really be a great parent.
And have I've heard, and I've said this before, that if a child has one person in their life who really cares about them and they feel they care about them, it makes a tremendous difference. Sometimes you have families that are a little bit dysfunctional, but if there's someone there for them, maybe they can be helped. If you had to say something, because we're closing down now, to parents, what would be the one thing, just in a sentence, that you'd suggest parents do to protect their children?
Be involved with your children. Get them involved in activities. Have dinner with them. Have some kind of parental structure with your children. Don't let them just run ungoverned. Have some involvement with your child. Get them involved in academic programs, athletic programs, whatever it takes, and be a part of that.
And I think that's good advice, not just for gangs, but for just living with kids and having them turn out to be good citizens. If you need any more information on this subject today, you can call Naples Alliance for Children, 649-5260, or the Sheriff's Office, and I believe it's going to be on the screen, but I believe the number is, correct me if I'm wrong, Sergeant, 774-4434.
That's correct.
And again, that's 774-4434. You can call Naples Alliance for Children for referral to any of these agencies in town who have help and assistance for kids. Thank you for being with us, and look for the Naples Alliance for Children CD and manual that will be coming out sometime this year on the internet and communication with kids and what parents can do. Thank you for being with us.
Meeting a teen girl online is actually pretty easy. You can go into any chat room and just start talking. Most of the girls are usually so insecure and desperate for attention.
Attention from older guys is totally flattering. They're so much more mature and understanding than the guys my age.
Age actually works to my advantage. They like to brag to their friends that they're dating an older guy, so I just play along and pretend I'm really
interested in the same things I am. You can talk forever and really get to know someone without worrying about looks or whatever. That's the best thing about
chatting seems unthreatening to them, so they lower their guard. After a while, I start talking about how we're soulmates and how lucky we are to have found each other.
Other people don't understand. I know what I'm doing. If you really care about each other, there's nothing wrong with me.
Meeting them is the goal. Once I get them out of their house, well, that's when things get really interesting.
Online predators know what they're doing. Do you?